All right. Let's kick it off. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Thank you all for joining me on today's credit about this today's webinar about better credit. My name is Sean Brown, and I will be your facilitator for today. And I'm excited. Let's talk about ways how to demystify credit and how we all can win the credit game. So let's start off with just a brief introduction. Once again, I am Sean Brown. I will be your trainer for today. And oh, I thought I was muted, so I'm not muted. Sorry. Everybody can hear me, right? Could somebody let me know in the chat? Can you guys hear me? I'm getting a weird message that's saying I'm muted. Could you guys hear me? Oh, perfect, perfect. So you guys can hear me. I'm not crazy. And yeah, so like I was saying, my name is Sean Brown, and I'm one half of the training team here at Daily Pay. And my background is mostly in banking. So before I worked at Daily Pay, I worked in a couple of different banks, some big banks, some small credit unions. I worked at Citibank. I worked at TD Bank. I worked at a small credit union called MCU, Municipal Credit Union in New York. And I worked at companies like Indeed. And now I'm at Daily Pay. And I'm super excited to be at Daily Pay and to talk more about credit. So before we get started, let's talk about some agreements. So we do have a few features in Zoom that you could use, starting with chat. And I want you to use the chat feature for any discussion and banter. So if you have any comments, anything like that, you want to talk amongst your peers that's in the webinar, please use that chat function. I want you to refrain using it for questions because I know there's going to be a lot of questions. We're going to have a lot of questions, which is great. We're going to hold I'm going to answer all the questions at the end of the webinar. But when you do want to ask a question, please use this Q&A feature that's built into Zoom. And I ask that you use the Q&A feature, mainly because if I can't get to your question, it's going to save. And at the end of the Zoom, it's going to send me an email with all the questions that I couldn't answer. And I do want to answer all the questions. So if I can't answer on today's webinar, I'm going to go ahead and answer it via email and a follow-up email. So please use that Q&A. It helps us track it, helps us get those questions answered. I know we're all human. Every time I do a webinar, I say this, then a million questions come through the chat. But if it does come through the chat, I'm going to try to redirect you to that Q&A button. But please use the chat because I will be asking you certain questions throughout. This is going to be a very collaborative webinar. This isn't going to be a webinar where you're just sitting here and listening to me talk. I'm going to ask you guys questions. And when I do ask you guys questions, please use all of the different Zoom features. We have things like closed captions. So if I'm talking too fast, I am from New York. Sometimes I do tend to talk a little fast. You can tell me to slow down in the chat, or you can put closed captions on, which will let you read what I'm saying. And if you want to do something, you can raise your hand. If you want to alert me of something, we also have reactions. So there's emojis. So if you think something is funny, you can use the laughing emoji. If something made you happy, you can use the smile emoji. If something makes you sad, which it will not on this webinar, but if something was to make you sad, you get the frown face. So feel free to use those different reactions. And please ask questions. The point of you guys being here is to get educated on credit. So please ask any questions that you have. I've been in a lot of real world scenarios. Like I said, I worked in banks, credit unions. So I was firsthand dealing with people and their credit and helping them get approved and get homes and auto loans and credit cards, all that good stuff. So please ask questions and let's have some fun. This webinar is meant to be fun. I don't enjoy taking time out my day and doing something that's not fun. So let's all have some fun. So let's jump right into it and talk the credit game. And I do think of credit like a game. Whether you like this game or not, if you live in America, we all have to play this game of credit. But the thing about credit, nobody really tells you the rules of how to actually play. Like imagine going to the park to play basketball, but nobody tells you the rules and you never played before. You're going to be out there committing all the different types of violations in the game. You're going to travel, double dribble. You're going to do everything that's not allowed. Now, of course, the more you play, the more you're going to get the hang and understand how to play the game the right way. But you started off at a huge disadvantage. You probably would have lost many games before you got the hang of it. And that's how I feel about credit. Nobody ever really tells you the rules of credit. Most people just learn as they go. And when you're dealing with credit, the average person is probably learning by making a few mistakes, which could set you back when you make mistakes with your credit. So I'm here today to change that. I'm going to teach you the secrets of credits, secrets that will keep those credit scores high, save you money, and have even the toughest of lenders ready to extend you credit because of your great credit worthiness. So let's start with the history lesson on credit. Because back in 1930, the charge of platter bookkeeping system. No, we're not doing that on this webinar. I've been on a bunch of webinars where I want to learn something, but we go through a whole history lesson that's not really important to me. So we're not going to do that on this webinar. We're going to get into the nitty gritty and really talk about credit. And I have a question for all of you. Why do you want good credit? Let's be honest. In the chat, let me know, chat. Why do you want good credit? Let's see. Let's see some responses there. Whatever, Trudy, better loan rates, low interest rates. Okay, I see that. The world is built on credit. Yes, it is. Because if you don't have credit, it's going to be difficult, very difficult, unless you're a high income earner and you would have to earn a lot of money. All right, I'm seeing better rates on loans. Okay, so I see better loan rates, low interest rates. You guys are really interested in the rates. Fair housing, that is a big one. Absolutely. You're going to need good credit when it comes time to purchasing your first home. And even when you're renting, you're going to definitely need to have your credit scores looking good. All right. Well, this is why I want to have good credit. And it's pretty much the same like all of you guys. I want to have that big fancy home with a nice car parked outside. And in order to do that, I'm either going to have to earn a lot of money, like a lot of money, or I'm going to need some access to what I like to call OPM. Does anybody know what OPM stands for? Chat, let me know. What does OPM stand for? OPM. Who wants to take a guess? Let me know in that chat. All right, I don't see anything. Other people's money, exactly. Other people's money. You're going to need access to what I like to call other people's money. Because to buy a home, let's say a home is $500,000. Most people typically don't have $500,000 in cash to buy a home straight out. Even when you're buying a car, most people don't have 30, 40, 25,000 to put down all on a car. And even if you do have that money, you're going to put all your funds into one thing and not have anything else to live off. So you're going to need access to other people's money. And that's what pretty much lending is. They're lending you. So a bank works like this. What they basically do is you deposit your money in a bank and they pay you interest. We all know the interest is really low right now, like less than 1%. But they're going to take that same money that you just deposited and loan it out to somebody at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. And that's how they earn money. But you're going to need access to other people's money. So that's why I want to have good credit. I want the fancy house. I want the big car. I just want to live a great life. So now let's talk about some of the facts of credits. Let's talk about the credit report versus your credit score because they're similar, but they're actually two different things. So the credit report, your credit report is a statement that has information about your credit activity and current credit situation, such as a loan, paying history, and the status of your credit accounts. So it's going to look something like this. Whenever you pull your own credit and you're going to pull that credit report, you're going to see a document that's going to have your personal information. It'll have accounts and activities. It'll have your inquiry history and any negative items, such as public records, any collection accounts. You're going to find that all on your credit report. So a lot of people don't know that you actually could get a free credit report from annualcreditreport.com. This is the only source for your free credit report, and it's authorized by federal law. Federal law requires each of the 3 nationwide consumer credit reporting agencies provide you with one free credit report per year. So it is annualcreditreport.com. You could also request it by phone. You could visit the website. And when you go on the website, don't be alarmed. A lot of younger people, they think it's a scam because the website doesn't really look anything fabulous. It looks kind of old and outdated. There's no glitz and glamour to it, but it is the correct website where you will get that free credit report from all 3 of your credit bureaus for free once per year. So visit that annualcreditreport.com to make sure you check those credit reports. Now let's talk about how long information is actually reported on those credit reports because this is super important to understand. So starting at the top, most negative information is reported for 7 years. So things such as late payments, any charge-offs, any collections, those will be reported for 7 years. So it's quite a long time, but as time goes on, any negative information will hurt you less. If things go south and you have to enter into Chapter 7 bankruptcy, that's actually going to be reported for 10 years. So Chapter 7 is a bunch of different bankruptcies, but Chapter 7, that's going to be reported for 10 years. Collection accounts. So this is very important on collection accounts, and a lot of people don't know this. Collection accounts, they are reported for 7 years from the date of first delinquency on the original account. So what debt collectors could do is they could sell your debt. So one collection company might sell it to another, and they might sell it to another one. And as it keeps getting sold, it's going to have a different date of when it was sold, but the actual collection is from the date of first delinquency on that original account. So if I have a Citibank credit card and I stop paying that Citibank credit card and 120 days goes by and they send it to collection, even though it may be sold to different collection agencies, that date that I first went delinquent on that Citibank card, that's the date where the timeline starts. So 7 years from that date. So that's really important to know. A great thing about credit, positive information, it can remain on your credit report forever. So we want that. We want anything positive to always reflect on that credit report because the more positive information you have, the more likely you're going to be approved for credit. So this one's important, and people don't know this one as well. The FICO score, that emphasizes the last 2 years of activity. So even though negative information reported for 7 years, when the FICO score, when they're taking a look at your credit score, FICO is looking at the last 2 years of activity. So you may have a collections on there, but if 2 years have passed and you had positive information for those whole 2 years, you're going to see your credit scores go up. So a lot of people don't know that. But if you one day get into some bad credit and you're working on your credit, try to make sure those 2 first years when everything went south, after that you keep everything positive because that's going to help your FICO score. Even though it will reflect on that credit report for 7 years, it's not going to hurt your score as much past 2 years. And hard inquiries remain on your credit report for 2 years. We're going to talk more about hard inquiries a little later in this training, but it will be on your credit report for 2 years. And basically, hard inquiry is if you're trying to get approved for credit, if you're asking for credit, you're trying to get approved for a car, a credit card, personal loan, that's going to be a hard inquiry because you're requesting credit, and that's going to be in your credit report for 2 years. Now let's talk about the credit score. And I'm not going to read that. We all basically know what the credit score is. The credit score is that numerical amount. That's pretty much gauging how well you are with paying people back. And I want you to think of your credit score like this because it is pretty much that gauge of how responsible somebody is with paying money back that they have borrowed. And it makes sense to me. It really does make sense to me because if your best friend asks you to borrow $1,000 and they say they're going to pay you back next week, but 3 months go by and they haven't paid you back yet, and that same friends come back to you and they say, can I borrow $500? How likely are you to give them that money again? Let me know, chat. If they never paid you back the first time, they come back for more money, are you going to let them borrow money again? Me? Not today. I'm not lending them any more money because I didn't get paid back the first time. So it's very unlikely, unless you're a really nice person, you might do it, but I'm not doing it. I'm not that nice. So your credit score is the same thing. When companies lend you money, they want to make sure you can pay them back. And if you are paying them back successfully, another company might step in and say, okay, this person, they pay back their debt, so I can lend them money too. So that's how I think of credit scores. It does make sense to me. If you're getting credit and you're not paying it back, it's very unlikely that another company is going to do the same because it may be a little foolish. So questions for the chat. Do you know your credit score? How many people know their credit score? You don't have to let me know what it is. You don't have to do that. I just want to know, do you know your credit score? All right, I see some yeses, some yeses. I see Credit Karma. Yes, okay, that's good. I'm really happy to see that you guys know your credit score, because some people have no idea what their credit score is, and they go apply for credit and they're surprised with the outcome. Oh, somebody put a score down there, 817. Why are you on this webinar? No, I'm just joking. You can learn a lot from this webinar. You probably want to get a perfect score, but 817, that's amazing. That's not my credit score, so you're doing really good. Congrats. Yes, congrats to that 817. Please keep that 817 safe. So I know some of you have said it already, but how do you find your credit score? What are you guys using to find your credit score? What are you guys using? Let's see. What are you guys using to find that credit score? My bank, Credit Karma, Credit Karma. I knew it. I knew I was going to see some Credit Karma, some more Credit Karma. Okay. My bank app, Credit Karma. Oh, so you guys like to use Credit Karma. I like that. I like to use Credit Karma as well. One, because it's free. Nobody wants to pay for to find a credit score. Did you guys know that there are two different types of credit scores? Because you have your FICO score and then you have a Vantage score. So it's pretty much like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. They're companies that do the same thing. They just do it a different way, different ingredients. So they have different algorithms when it comes to making those credit scores. So the two major players is going to be that FICO score and the Vantage score. But what most people don't realize is 90% of lenders, so financial institutions, are using that FICO score. Only 10% are using the Vantage score. The Vantage score is a newer scoring system that that some companies are now using when it comes to rental applications or utilities, phones, things like that. But majority of companies are looking for your FICO score. Does this look familiar? How many people recognizes this? What is this? What am I showing you on the screen right now? Credit Karma. You guys know that Credit Karma is that green arch with the credit score in the middle that shows you your TransUnion and your Equifax credit score. So for those of you that say you know your credit score, but you're using Credit Karma, I want to let you know that Credit Karma is your Vantage score. And if you recall, that only 10% of lenders are using Credit Karma when it comes to lending you credit. And a lot of people don't know that. So working in the bank, this would happen all the time. Somebody would apply for a personal loan, a car, a mortgage, and they would say, oh, my credit is 800. There's no way that I can't not get approved. And then when I pull their credit, my company is looking for your FICO score, and it comes back a different number. And they're like, this is impossible. I just checked Credit Karma. My score was at 800. But the reason for that is because most lenders are looking for that FICO score, and Credit Karma is not giving you your FICO score. So the thing about Credit Karma, it's great because the credit report is the same no matter what you use. Your credit report is your credit report. So I use it for that information. But when it comes to that credit score, when I go apply for credit, I don't use Credit Karma to find out the number, because I know more than likely that institution is not using my Vantage score. And what I like to tell people is when you go apply for credit, ask them, what are you using? Which credit bureau? And are you using your FICO or the Vantage score? You could ask them. It's not a secret. If they don't want to tell you, I wouldn't even try to do business with them. So this is very important to understand that Credit Karma is a great tool. It's free. It does give you a score, but it's not the score that everybody is looking for. And I do see the questions in the chat. I'm going to answer the questions at the end, and I'll try to answer it throughout. But if you can use that Q&A, just so I could see it in the Q&A, and I can mark it off as answered. And if I can't get to it, I'll make sure to send an email with that answer. All right. So now let's talk about the three different credit bureaus, because there are three major credit bureaus. They're Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And if I go back, you're going to see also that Credit Karma is only giving you two of the three major players. You only can see your TransUnion and your Equifax score. So another plot twist, when it comes to the credit bureaus, most lenders are looking for your Experian score. So Credit Karma, once again, is very useful, but it's not providing you the whole picture because it's missing one of the major players, which is Experian. So you see Equifax, TransUnion. We go back. Those are the only two that you see on Credit Karma. You're not going to see that Experian score. So therefore, It is missing one. But once again, I like Credit Karma. It's a great tool to use for those reports, but it is missing your FICO score, which is 90%, and Experian, where most banks and credit unions and financial institutions are using. So has anybody ever seen this? They went and checked their credit, but each score is different. And you're like, how is this possible? Why do I have one lower than the other? I'm only one person. Why does this happen? I have 736 over here, 772 over here, 769 over here. Why does that happen? And it was a question that I had when I first started out with credit. And the reason for this is because each company is using a different scoring model. So we're going to be talking about the FICO score in this training, since that's the one 90% that people are using. So I'm not going to talk about the Vantage score. I'm going to focus on the FICO, since that's what most people is looking for. And as you can see, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, they use different versions. So it starts at 1. The newest version is 10. And the crazy thing about it is each company that you work with may be using a different version. And Experian, see, they're using FICO 9, FICO 8, Equifax, the same thing. TransUnion, when it comes for widely used versions. But then when you want to get an auto loan, one's using 5, one's using 2, one's using 9, 8, 4. So you can see that your credit score will never be the same amongst the three because they're all using different scoring models. So another question that I always ask is, what scoring model are you using? Which FICO scoring model? And they should be able to tell you that. They shouldn't withhold that information. Well, that's really why you see different scores, because these scoring models are pretty much different algorithms. So the way they calculate your credit score is different based on the model that they're using. And they're mostly used for different things. Like mortgage, I know mortgages usually use FICO score 5, but you can see Experian might use 2, TransUnion might use 4. So you may know your credit score, but you don't know which model they're using. And always ask which bureau they're using. Always ask that. I ask right away, are you using Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax? Because based on that information, I might not apply for a credit card with that company, because if I know my TransUnion score is low and they use TransUnion to approve credit, and I know my Experian score is high, I'm going to go to the bank that's using Experian because I'm more likely to get approved. So that's just another tip. I'm going to give you guys a lot of tips and gems on this training. Has anybody learned anything new thus far? Chat, let me know. Has anybody learned anything new thus far? All right, thumbs up, thumbs up. I like that. 1000%. Love it, love it, love it. All right, now let's talk about the breakdown of how your FICO score is calculated. Let's play a little game. Let's see who could guess the answer for this. Who could guess? So we have the biggest chunk is 35%. We then have 30%, 15, and 10. So 35%, which is the most of the pie. Which one do you think is 35%? Payment history, amounts owed, length of credit, new credit, or credit mix? Let me know in the chat. So I see payment history. I see length. Let's see. Look at some more answers. Payment history, one length. I see another payment history, owed. All right. All good guesses, all good guesses. And I'm going to reveal it. It actually is your payment history. So your payment history is the biggest piece of the pie. 35% of that FICO score is due to your payment history. Real important to know. So now let's go to 30%. Payment history is off the board. What is 30%? Is it amounts owed, length of credit, new credit, or that credit mix? I see amount owed for one. Let's see what else. Owed, amount owed. All right. Credit mix, length. I'm going to reveal it in 3, 2, 1. 30% is amounts owed. So the amounts owed takes up 30% of the pie. So the two major players, which you can see is very important. We're going to talk more about it. But that payment history and that amounts owed, it's 65% of your FICO score. What about 15%? We got 2 off the board. Is it the length of credit, new credit, or credit mix? 15%. I see length. Okay, length. A lot of length. Length is winning. And you guys got it. Length of credit, that's the 15%. Then we have the 10%. So whether you guess new credit or credit mix, you're going to be right. So 10% is new credit and the credit mix. And we're going to talk more about that. We're going to dive deeper into that. So payment history, 35% of that credit score. These are the things that you have to do to make sure you keep that payment history top notch. always, always, always make at least the minimum payment by the due date. Make that minimum payment by the due date. Set up auto pay. So what I do is I set up all my cards and loans and everything on auto pay to make that minimum payment. But then I do make another payment after that because I want to, make that balance drop faster. So I don't like to only make the minimum payment. Of course, if you're in a situation where you can only make the minimum payment, please make that minimum payment by the due date because late payments 30 days or more get reported. And remember earlier, it stays on your credit report for 7 years. So a lot of people don't know this. So let's say you miss that payment by 1 day. You're going to get charged a fee. More than likely, they're going to charge you a fee, $25, $35, what it is, whatever it is, a late fee. But it's not going to get reported on your credit right away. It has to be passed through by 30 days for it to get reported. So at the worst, if you cannot make that minimum payment by the due date, please make that payment before the 30 days comes up. Because if you get it paid before the 30 days, it's not going to get reported on your credit and it's not going to be on there for 7 years. And also, a lot of people don't know this. If you call the bank, the credit card, your lender, and you miss that payment and they charge you a fee, if it's the first time, they're more than likely going to refund that fee. If you call them and say, hey, you know what? I had a payment set up. Something happened. I don't know what happened. They'll refund it for you for the first time. But of course, if you had 10 late payment fees, it's not going to work. So do it for the first time. Maybe the second time you could try. If you want to keep trying, you might get told no, but you can get a refund and just prepare better for the next time. And we already know the late payments can stay on your credit report for 7 years. All right. So now let's talk about. Oh, 1 second. I'm frozen. All right. Let's minimum payments. So I did say to make sure you make that minimum payment by the due date, but you will see this on your credit card statements, and it's going to let you know that minimum payments, even though you can make a minimum payment, it's not always the best thing because it's going to cost you a lot more money in the long run. Because if you take a look here, if you're paying that minimum payment so let's say you make a minimum payment, and you don't use your card ever again, it's going to take you 21 years to pay this off. And it's going to cost you an estimated total of $5,936. If you make a payment of $95, so let's say your minimum payment is $50, but you make a payment of $95, look how many years you cut off that. It's gonna take you 3 years to pay it. It's gonna cost you $3,411, and you're gonna save $2,525. So be very careful with paying those minimum payments. It's gonna take you a long time to pay it off. And all that really means is you're paying more money because you're paying more in interest. You're paying 21 years worth of interest. I just like to show people that because some people don't really understand. A lot of young people, a lot of people in general, nobody really taught me about credit. I learned by mistakes. I've had terrible credit. I had good credit. I had moderate credit. I flip-flop back and forth, and I finally figured it out. But that minimum payment, it could get dangerous. So watch out there. So that was payment history, the 35%. Now let's talk about amounts owed, which is 30% of your score. So amounts owed is also known as credit utilization. And credit utilization is pretty much the amount of credit that you have available versus the amount of credit used. So if you have a credit line of $10,000 in your credit card and you use $5,000 of that, you utilize 50%. So that's a 50% credit utilization rate. Does that make sense so far? And if that doesn't make sense, think of it like coffee. So let's say you have this coffee pitcher and this coffee is 20 liters of coffee. You drink 10 of those 20 liters. That would mean you drank 50% of the coffee. So that means you utilize 50% of that coffee. So I like to give things visually. So if you think of it as a coffee pitcher, you drank half the coffee, that's 50%. So utilize 50% of that coffee, 50% utilization rate. So when it comes to credit utilization, these are some basic guidelines on how to keep your credit scores high, because I recommend that you keep it below 30%, because if you keep it below 30%, it's not going to have a negative effect on your credit. But once you get past 30%, it can have a negative effect on your credit. So excellent, if you keep that credit utilization from 0 to 9%, that's considered excellent. Your scores are going to be at its highest if you keep it there. 10 to 29%, that is good. And once again, if you keep it under 30%, That's good. It's not going to have a negative impact on your credit scores. And once you start going over 30%, 30 to 49 is fair, 50 to 74% is poor, and anything higher than 74% is very poor. So the reason for this is because lenders think once you start maxing out your credit cards, lenders think it's a sign of something has went wrong. They may have lost their job, they're not getting the same income, and in order for them to survive, they have to start maxing all of their cards out. So once you have maxed out cards, your credit score will suffer because of that. One thing that I do like to tell people, because I do know some people that check their credit scores every single day, they're making sure, oh my gosh, I used my credit card and I went over 30%. You don't have to check your credit scores every day. You don't have to, these are just basic guidelines, but if life happens, we all have to use credit cards for different things. If you do have to go over 30%, it's not the end of the world. And especially if you're not applying for new credit, if you're not applying for a credit card or for a personal loan, you're not trying to get a house or a car. Of course, your credit utilization, it matters, but it's not the worst thing. But when the time comes to get that car, to buy that house, or to apply for that credit card, that's when you should tell yourself, okay, let's get this credit utilization lower by paying off the debt that you owe. Or what I like to do, a lot of people don't know this, is you could ask for a credit increase, which is going to help your credit utilization. Because let's say you had a $10,000 credit card and you use $5,000 of it, but you get a credit increase and they raise it to $15,000 available, your utilization will be better because now the algorithm changes. Now you have more available versus what you spent. But the safest way is just to start paying that debt down. Everybody still with me? I know I'm saying a lot. Are we at a good pace? Everybody, are we getting this? All right. Perfect. All right. So this one, I know a lot of people don't know this, because when it comes to that credit utilization, they're looking for two things, not just one. So they're looking for your utilization per line of credit. So for every credit card that you have, every revolving line of credit that you have, they're looking at the utilization for each of them individually. So if you have 5 cards and they all have $1,000 credit limit, they're going to look at each of those individually, how much you spent versus how much you have available. But they're also looking for your credit utilization for your whole credit profile. So they're going to add all of your available credit, and they're going to add how much you spend on all of them. And there's going to be 2 different credit utilizations. You want to make sure you keep both of those under 30% when you're applying for new credit, to make sure your scores are as high as they could be. So keep that in mind, because some people think, okay, I just have to keep, this one card down. I don't have to keep all of them down. But no, they're looking at 2 things: each individual card and the total of all the credit that you've been loaned. And the great thing about it, if you use Experian or your Credit Karma, TransUnion, Equifax, they'll show you what your credit utilization is, and you want to keep that number down. They're going to show you it per card, and they'll also show you it in general. So that's why I love using those tools, because you don't have to do the math; it'll just show you. All right, and I like to say this part because some people don't realize that even though, let's say, you have 2 credit cards. One credit card has $1,000 limit. The other credit card has a $500 limit. You spent $200 on both of them. You're like, okay, $200, that's not that much money. I only spent $200. The next thing you know, your credit score goes down. You're like, what? I only spent $400 in total. But if you take a look, when you're looking at the individual utilization rate, if you spend $200 on a $1,000 limit, you use 20%. So that's good. Thumbs up. That's 20% utilization. But if the card only has a $500 limit and you spend $200, you had 40% utilization. And as we showed before, that's bad. So those lower card limits, try not to spend, even though $200 is not a lot of money to some people, it's not a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money to me. I don't know. Everybody's different, but $200 is a smaller amount. But if you spend it with a lower limit, it's going to negatively impact your credit scores. All right. Now we're going on to length of credit history. That's 15% of your score. So length of credit history is looking at 2 things: average age of accounts. We're looking at, and I just want to make sure, I think, did my recording stop? Okay, my recording is going perfect. So length of credit history, average age of accounts, and age of oldest account, 15%. So, okay, so this one is a little harder to control because it's controlled by time, but it is important that you keep your oldest credit account always open. You should not close your old credit cards. I have a credit card that I got when I was 18 back in 2009. So I aged myself. Okay, you gotta know how old I am. That's fine. But I have a credit card from back then that I will never close because it's my oldest account. And since it's my oldest account, it's helping my credit because now I have what 15 years of credit history compared to 2 years. So always keep that old card open. Do not close it because by closing a card, it will negatively impact your credit score. So just keep it open. You could keep the balance at zero. But one thing to keep in mind, so this happened to me too. I had another account, which was my second oldest. It was Bob's Discount Furniture, and I bought some furniture, and I paid it off, and I didn't use it, and they closed it for me. So the bank just closed it. They said inactivity. We're closing this card out, and that hurt my credit score. So you may have to do one transaction every 6 months to keep it open, but be aware of that. If you don't use it, they can close it. It is in their terms of agreement, but always keep that old card open. And with the average age of accounts, of course, it's going to look at, how many accounts you have, and it's going to give you an average age. So there's some gems there when it comes to age of accounts. And good, 3 years, 1 year, that's good. Of course, better, 10, 5, 3 years. So over time, this is only 15% of your score, and you can't really control time, but you can control keeping that old card open. And the one thing that can hurt you is if you start applying for a lot of new credit close together, because it's going to hurt that average age. Because if you get, let's say you get 3 credit cards 1 month, it's going to be all new credit. And once they do that average, it's going to drop your average age. So just be aware of that, when it comes to that average age and the age of your oldest account. And don't close it. The only time I would tell you to close it is if you're getting charged fees. So if there's an annual fee of $900, I'm not paying $900 just to keep that card open. So that's a situation where you might want to close it because I don't want you paying $900 for a card you don't use. But if you can, please keep that card open. I've seen firsthand that people close it and their score drops by 30, 50 points. And they're shocked. Like, why did my score drop? And I tell them because you just went from having 20 years worth of credit history down to 7 because you closed the oldest card. It's going to go to the next oldest, and now your credit history has been removed for all of those years. So be careful there. And are we still having fun and we learning something? It's kind of hard because you guys are, muted, but I just want to make sure thumbs up. Perfect, perfect. All right. Question. This is a famous question that I always get. Can checking your own credit hurt your credit score? Chat, let me know. Can checking your own credit hurt your credit score? I see a yes. Look at some more answers. Yes, yes. Okay, I see double yeses. Okay, I'm seeing some yeses. So can checking your own credit hurt your credit score? I'm seeing a no. So majority right now is yes. Anybody else want to answer? Give me another 5 seconds. Remember, checking your own credit score. All right, another gem coming. So checking your own credit does not hurt your credit score. This is the biggest myth in the world. If you check your own credit, it does not have any effect on your credit score. So if you check it via Credit Karma, if you sign up for Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax, and you check it, if you check your own credit, it has no impact on your credit score. If you ask for credit, if you go to a bank, a credit union, and you apply for new credit, that will impact your credit score. But checking your own credit will never, ever impact your credit score. Because checking your own credit is called a soft credit pull. And there's 2 different types. It could either be a soft credit pull or a hard credit pull. And checking your own credit is considered a soft credit pull. And when it comes to soft credit pulls, once again, it will not affect your credit scores. Soft credit pulls are for things such as pre-qualified credit card offers. Have you ever got something in the mail that said you were pre-approved or pre-qualified for this credit card? And you're like, how do they know that I'm pre-approved or pre-qualified? It's because in the background, they're running your credit, but they're doing a soft credit pull. So it's not going to hurt your credit. You won't see it on your credit report, but they're doing this to send out all of these different promotions. So whenever you see one of these pre-qualifications, it's because they checked your credit, but they did it in a soft credit pull, so there's no impact. So soft credit, and then we have a hard credit pull. So a hard credit pull, those will have an impact to your credit score because once again, that generally occurs when a financial institution, such as a lender or a credit card issuer, checks your credit to make a lending decision. So this is commonly going to take place when you apply for that mortgage, that loan, that credit card, you apply for that auto loan. And remember, hard credit pulls, they stay on your credit report for 2 years. Soft credit pulls don't stay on there at all. And these are some basic things on when a hard credit is gonna pull is gonna be done. What I like to do, I just ask, even though I know if I'm applying for credit is gonna be a hard credit pull, there are some companies now that do soft credit pulls. So there's a lot of fintech companies, a lot more companies are doing soft credit pulls to approve credit. So just ask, like things like Affirm, those buy now, pay laters. You see that most of the time they don't hit your credit report because they're doing a soft credit pull. But once again, I'm big on asking questions. Nobody ever asks, and no, because nobody's told to say, why don't you just ask the bank or whoever you're getting, lending from? If they do a hard credit pull, soft credit pull, are you looking at Vantage, FICO score, and are you using Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax? Because some companies use all three. Some companies will run all three of your credit. Some companies only run one or two. Have you ever seen that you check your credit score, your credit report, and then you see a hard inquiry on one credit bureau, but not on the other two? That's because that company only checks one because they have to pay. They have to pay to run all three. So some companies don't want to pay the cost of running your credit on all three bureaus, so they might just use one. And that's why you might see your credit reports also deferred. They're not all the same because everybody doesn't have to report to all three. They can pick and choose. And I do see a question in the chat. I'll answer that one. What's the difference between the information received from soft versus hard? And the information is the same. It is the same information. It's just not an official look into it. So they are pretty much seeing how much credit you have and how much credit you use, and they could see that credit score as well. But a lot of times, soft credit pulls may be using your Vantage score as well. But they are looking at the same information. But another thing that I want to mention, just because you are pre-approved or pre-qualified does not guarantee you to be approved for that lending. A lot of people think, and it's because of the marketing, that, oh, I'm pre-approved, I'm definitely getting this because there's no way I'm going to get denied. I've seen this happen so many times because once again, it is not an official look. So they're not seeing everything. They're really just seeing mainly the credit score. They're not seeing, all of the information. But when they officially do that hard credit pull and they see the entire credit report, they may say, oh, this guy has a collection, so she has a bankruptcy. Even though the credit score may be good, we don't want to lend to them because they have negative information. So be careful there when it comes to those pre-approvals because it's not a guarantee. This is a conversation I had a lot in the banking world where somebody would get denied and now they're mad at me because of that situation. And can too many soft credit pulls affect if you get approved on future loans? As if you had too many hard inquiries, can they be a sign you may be a risk? No. So soft inquiries, they will have no effect on you because every time you check your credit, it's going to be a soft credit pull, but it has no impact. I use Experian and I actually found a way to see my soft credit pulls, and it was like hundreds of them because companies are just doing it in the background to send out these pre-approvals. But no, you could do as many soft credit pulls as you want with zero impact to your credit score. It does not make you look more risky than somebody who does no soft credit pulls. And I recommend you do soft credit pulls because you're going to be checking your credit. So it's keeping you in the know. It's a great question there. All right. So new credit, AKA inquiries. So the soft versus hard inquiries, that's what we're talking about right now. And so this is another gem. A lot of people do not know this. And this is so important. Within a 14 to 45-day window, and I'm going to explain that, multiple credit checks from mortgage and auto lenders are recorded on your credit report as one inquiry. So the reason for this is because if you're buying a car, you're buying a house, most people are going to different places because they want to get the best rate and the best deal. So it wouldn't be fair that you're trying to get a house and you only could go to one person and do that credit pull, and you go to another one because it was a bad deal and now your credit score is affected. So within the banks are going to give you 14 to 45 days. And I say 14 to 45 because you remember when we had all the different scoring models, FICO 9, 8, 10, 4, they're all a little bit differently. But so I would recommend that you do it all within a 14-day window because the newer models are allowing 45 days, but the older models are allowing 14 days. So what that means, and this is what I did when I bought my first house, I went to 7 different mortgage lenders to see if I could get the best rate. Because once again, each lender is looking at different things. And I was denied for 3 lenders and 4 of them approved me. So I would recommend that you get at least 3 different inquiries. You go to 3 different lenders when buying a house to check that, because remember, it's only going to hurt you one time, even though you have multiple credit pulls. And that's only for mortgages and auto loans. So if you're doing a credit card, that's different. But if you're doing a mortgage or auto loan, because think about it, you're only going to buy one house. And not like you're going to buy one house, then apply for another mortgage in a week. Credit cards, you could do that. But when you're doing a house or a car, you're not likely going to do that. So 14 days. And one thing I should also mention is, because I didn't know this, when I went to those 7 different places, it will show on your credit report that you have 7 inquiries on there, but your score is not going to be hurt. So that credit score is not going to go down every time you do it, but you will have 7 different inquiries. What I thought was, since it's not going to have any impact, I'm just going to see 1 credit inquiry. But no, I saw all 7, but I also saw my score didn't drop. It only dropped from the first one. And within those 14 days, the other 6 was perfectly fine. Make sense? How we doing? We still doing good? All right, I see a question coming in. I know we're getting close with time, so I'm going to save the question for the end so we could get through the rest of the material. Credit mix. So 10% of your score is that credit mix. And that's just pretty much having different types of credit. There are different types, 3 different types is unsecured, which is your credit cards, your retail accounts, any of your finance company accounts, and you have secured. And the difference between unsecured and secured is unsecured. You go apply for a credit card, and they give you the credit card. You get a credit card worth $5,000, but you don't back it by anything. A secured lending is a mortgage or auto loan. So you're getting a house and a car, but let's say you stop paying. What could they do? They could always repossess that car or take the house back on foreclosure. And that's why it's called secured, because it is more safe for them to do these type of loans, because they have something they could take away from you, versus unsecured, where they have nothing they could take away from you. They have to send you to collections or take you to court. Then when it comes to the lines or loans, there's 2 different types. A loan is considered closed-ended. You might hear that called an installment loan. And what I mean by that, you go get a loan for $10,000. They give you the whole $10,000 up front, and you use it for whatever you need to use it for, and you pay them back at the same fixed payment every single month. A line of credit, like a home equity line of credit, or if you get a line of credit from your bank, that's called open-ended or revolving, because it works like a credit card. They give you $2,000 to use. You use $1,000, you pay it back, you have $2,000 available to you again. Closed-ended, they give you all the money up front, and you pay it back at the same rate every single month. Revolving credit is like a door. You use it, you get it back. You use it, you get it back. So let's talk about some ways to get started with credit. And these are ways that I recommend. A secured credit card, that's a great way to start your credit journey, because with a secured credit card, you have to put money down in order to get the card. So a lot of people that are trying to fix their credit or start their credit would get a secured card. You go to the bank, you say, I want a secured card. You put down $500, and $500 becomes your credit limit. So that's why it's called a secured card, because if you stop paying it, you already put $500 down, and they're just going to go ahead and take the money that you didn't pay from the $500 and send you the rest. So it is a safer way for lenders to do that, to lend you money. And it's a great, great way to start your credit journey. You also have a secured loan, which is pretty much the same thing, but it's a loan format. A lot of credit unions do this. You don't really see this at banks, but if you go to smaller credit unions or regional banks, you're going to see that you could get a secured loan, which is the same thing. You give them $500. They put that $500 in a savings account. They give you a loan that says this loan is for $500, and you just pay it back on a monthly basis. We also have credit building loans. That's a new thing that's come about in the past few years, where if you just Google credit building loans, it does work a little bit differently, where they would give you they'll say that, okay, I gave you a loan for $1,000. You have to pay this back at $50 a month. But they actually don't give you the $1,000. They just report to the credit bureaus like they gave you $1,000, even though they really didn't give it to you, and you're paying them back. And once you pay it all off, they send you the money back minus any fees or charges that they may have, because everybody's in it to make some money. That's what a credit building loan is. Cosigner. So if you want to get a car and you don't have good credit or you haven't started credit, you're going to need a cosigner, and you're going to need somebody that already has good credit to be able to get that. So that's a great way to start your credit because you now have a car. You now have the car being reported to the different credit bureaus, and you had a cosigner help you with that. But be careful, co-signing is very dangerous because if the person you co-sign for does not pay, you're legally responsible to pay for that. So co-signing, I tell people, be very careful. Make sure it's somebody you trust and love, because if they stop paying, you have to pay it back. And if you don't pay it back, both of your credit will get messed up. Authorized signer. So I like authorized signer because you can make somebody an authorized signer on your card and not even give them the credit card. You're just doing it to help their credit. And that's what I did when I was trying to build my credit. I asked my mom, she had a credit card with a 30,000 limit. I said, Mom, can you add me as an authorized signer? And she did that. So when she added me as an authorized signer, now on my credit report, it showed that I have a credit card with a 30,000 limit, and I really don't. I'm just an authorized signer on her card, so I'm piggybacking off of her credit. Well, my score jumped about 40 points just by doing that. So authorized signers are a really good thing to do. I would recommend if you need help with your credit and you know somebody with great credit, ask them to be an authorized signer and tell them, I don't even want the card. I don't want to spend any money on it. I just need your good credit history. And then you got your department store cards such as Macy's, JC Penney, things like that. But I left department store cards for last for a reason. Has anybody ever been here? Does anybody know what this is? What does this look like? Let me know. Anybody know what this is? And I do know we're coming up to time. I do have a few more slides, but if anybody wants to stay on longer, please feel free to stay with me. And if you can't stay, I could send you the recording. I will be sending this recording out to everybody. So feel free to catch the recording for anybody that has to leave. So department stores. I don't like department store cards too much because if anybody's ever been to a department store, you buy a million things, you get, this is Macy's, so you get 30% off, 40% off. You think you're saving a lot of money. Then you go right ahead and you get to that register, and what do they ask you? Will you like to apply for a Macy's card to save 50 more percent? And I'm like, 50 more percent? I just saved 40% over here, 30% over there. Now I'm going to save 50 more percent. Sign me up. But what people don't realize is those department store cards comes with extremely, extremely high interest, 30% and more. You could just Google Macy's credit card and look at the disclosures. You're going to be paying a lot of interest on those cards. I see somebody wrote it in the chat as well. It's going to have a crazy high interest rate, and that 50% that you think you're saving, you might be paying back in interest. So be real careful when it comes to those department store cards. All right, so now let's talk about what a good credit score is, because that's another common question I get is what is a good credit score? And as you can see from this chart, anywhere from 300 to 580, that's considered a poor score. From 580 to 670, that's fair. 670 to 740, good. And anything over 740 is very good. So anything over 740, you're good to go. Whoever had that 817 credit score, I hope it was your FICO score and not your Vantage score, because most people are looking at the FICO score, but you're in a good place. You're more than likely going to get approved for credit wherever you go. Oh, and what the FICO score, Dawn, you are amazing. You're gonna help me teach this class one day because that is a great credit score. So when it comes to your different credit scores, it's very important to understand because anywhere from that 300 range, which is at the very bottom, to about 579, you're going to have a very hard time qualifying for a loan. You're more than likely only going to be able to get that secured credit card or secured loan in that low range. Once you get to that fair range, which is in the yellow, you may be given a loan, you may not, depending on that credit report. But if you do get approved, you're more than likely going to have a higher interest rate with that. Once you get to the green, you're most likely going to be approved for credit with moderate interest rate. You're going to be given a good rate. But anywhere in that blue, you're definitely going to get approved. Well, I don't like to say definitely. You're very likely going to get approved with the lowest rate and promotional offers possible. So that's why it's very important with these credit scores, because as you can see, it's going to have an impact on your interest rates. And why does good credit matter? You all said it in the beginning, because you want that lower interest rate, you want those better loan terms, you want better housing options, you don't want to have any impact on your employment opportunities. Because some states they do allow, employers to check their credit to make an employment decision. A lot of states are stopping that to use your credit, because credit really doesn't determine whether you're a good employee or not. Somebody could have terrible credit. Even if I had bad credit, I was a great employee. And I just fell on, hard times. So good credit does matter. What did that really mean when it comes to lower interest rates, better loan terms, better housing options? What that really means for me is when I have kids, I'm going to be able to save money and send my kids to college. I don't want my kids to have to take out loans to go to college. So any money that I could save, I'm going to put that away so I could get my kids to college so they could get an education and be great citizens in this world. To me, it also means I could buy my dream house. I know we all have dreams. My dream is to have a great big house. So all the money that I'm saving and not paying an interest, I'm going to put that away so I could buy that home for my family, or have a pool in the back, and not have to worry about not having that opportunity because I have poor or bad credit. And if you want to start a business, great credit is a great advantage, because if anybody has started a business or knows anything about business, the cost to start a business and keep a business running is very high, and it's hard to do without having access to lending, to a business credit card or a business loan. So if you want to start that business, and if you dream to have a bakery or you dream to have a farm, having good credit is going to make that path a little bit easier, because now you get lending and funding to start those dreams. And I actually want to give you some insight. I want to give you a visual look at what it actually looks like when it comes to your credit score and the different interest rates. So here we have a car. This is the same car. This car costs $30,000. And somebody with a 730 credit score, they may be paying that 5.75% in interest, versus somebody with a 640 credit score that's paying 12% in interest. If you take a look at that payment every month, you're going to see that that payment is $97.75 more a month. But if you look at the total that you're paying in interest, you're paying almost $6,000 more in interest for the same vehicle. You're getting the same car, and just because one person had a higher credit score compared to another person, you now have to pay $6,000 more almost in interest over those 5 years that you have this auto loan. So that number may seem insignificant. All right, it's almost $100 more a month, $6,000. That's not that bad. But now let's look at it if you're buying a house. So this one is really going to open your eyes, because if you're buying a house, this house, $300,000 house, 730 credit score versus a 640 credit score, your payment and the amount of interest is going to increase dramatically, because this house over the course of 30 years is going to cost you almost $500,000 more in interest alone. So you're just paying $500,000 more in interest over the course of the 30 years that you have that loan. And you could have took that money and you could have bought another house. So that is a lot of money. And this is why I really like to do this, because a lot of people don't realize. They say, okay, what's a few points on a credit score really matter? When you're buying things like homes and you're taking out big item loans, you're going to see that $500,000 is a lot of money there. Who's seen this before? Have you ever seen this? I go, no credit in the auto world, then come get your car today. So be careful, because it may be true that if you have no credit or bad credit, that you will get a vehicle, but it might look something like this. The car may cost $12,000. It has 110,000 miles, which is terrible. And they're going to give you an interest rate of 26% just because of your credit worthiness. So be careful. And they might say something like it's only $90 a week. But if you do the math for $90 a week, that is a lot of money. So if you take a look here, and I want you to look at this total of 60 payments. So at the end of this loan, it's really going to cost you $21,000. So you guys see that? How much is going to cost you with that 26% interest rate? It really gets bad, at places like that. And they take advantage of young people who has no idea how credit works. And now let's talk about some of the keys to good credit. First off, pay your loans on time every time. You already saw that payment history consists of 35% of that credit score. So make sure you pay those loans on time every time. Don't max out your credit cards and get close to that credit limit because, as you know, 30% is credit utilization. A longer credit history is going to help your score. Keep those old cards open unless you're getting charged crazy fees, and only apply for credit that you need because the more credit that you have, you might spend it because credit doesn't feel real. Have you ever been in a store and something costs $4,000 and you're like, oh, that's a lot of money? They say, oh wait, I got a credit card with a $5,000 limit. It don't seem like that much money anymore, but it's actually more money than what it would have been if you had paid it cash. So only apply for credit that you need because credit makes your brain think it's not real money and you're more than likely to spend it, and it may be hard to pay back and you have to pay back a lot of interest. And always fact check your credit reports because if there's any errors on there, that has to be corrected and you can dispute it to get it corrected to improve that credit score. And for anybody that may be in a situation where you have bad or poor credit right now, we all know life happens, things happen. You may have not been educated as we all are getting right now. So don't worry, you can fix your own credit. And I know when things go south, you may be inclined to Google credit repair company. You may hire them to fix your credit. But I want you to see this because credit repair companies, has been proven that a lot of them are not operating in your best interests. These are real headlines that I took from reputable news sources of credit repair companies doing things illegally in the act of credit repair. So please, please be very careful because credit repair companies cannot legally do anything you cannot do yourself for free. I'm going to repeat that. Credit repair companies cannot legally do anything you cannot do yourself for free. Because a credit repair company, what they're going to do, they're going to charge you a large fee often up front to do the credit repair services. They're going to promise to remove negative but accurate information, which, that's not really legal. And they promise things they cannot really accomplish as fast and easy credit repair. And some of them offer to create a new identity. You might hear some people saying they get a CPN from a credit repair company. That is the most illegal thing you could do. A CPN is for people who had fraud on their credit, identity theft, and we now have to create another number for them because their social has been compromised. So if a credit repair company said they're just going to create a CPN for you, just know that that's illegal and it could catch up to you in the long run. And if you need to repair credit yourself, there's a lot of different things you could do. Check your credit report. Make sure you check it. Use that annual credit report. Check it with any of the credit bureaus because you want to make sure that there's no errors on that credit report. Because if there are any errors, your credit report has to be 100% accurate. 100% accurate. And the sad part about it, it's on the consumer to make sure that it's accurate. It's not on the company. But if you find any errors on that credit report, dispute it and get it corrected so it could positively impact your credit score. And this one is probably most important. You want to start getting positive credit history. We know things went south, things happened. You have a lot of debt. Who knows what happened in your life? You may experience a traumatic, accident. Who knows? So you may have debt, but we're not going to think about the past. We're going to think about the future and getting things better. So you have to get positive activity. You have to go from the red to the green. So you have to do all you can to bring those past due accounts current. Always maintain that low credit utilization. We talked about that in depth in the beginning. And you want to start paying off any debt. And what I mean by debt, so things like utility bills, they don't hurt your credit score. They don't get reported to your credit when things are good. But let's say you stop paying it and it gets sent to collection. And that now becomes a debt that you have to make sure that you pay. Few more things. You want to avoid applying for new credit. Keep those unused credit accounts open. Apply for those secured credit cards, those credit building loans. Set up auto pay. Please set up auto pay for that minimum payment so you never miss a payment and make more payments as you go. But the important thing is that you have no late payments. You don't get those late fees, and get credit counseling. This is the first step. So I'm happy to see everybody. You guys took the first step on joining this webinar. But if you Google not-for-profit credit counseling, there's a ton of resources out there. And this is the last section for anybody who's still on. I do see some people. Thank you for staying. I know we went over time. This is great. I know I just lets me know I just have to cut it down a little bit or just schedule out more time. But I think this is all important. So let's get to the last section, which is the hidden gems. And this one I really want to show you guys. So for those of you that are still here, this is very important. Nobody really knows this. And this is something called Regulation Z. And it's saying it governs the usury interest rate ceiling federal credit unions are required to follow. So I'm not going to read it, but what this is saying, it's saying that credit unions cannot charge you more than 18% in interest. Legally, they cannot charge you more than 18%. A lot of people do not know that. So if you look at a credit union, if you Google Navy Federal Credit Union, look at their credit cards, there's going to be no credit card that offers more than 18%. If you go to Teachers Federal Credit Union, there's going to be no credit card or loan that goes more than 18%. But if you go to a bank, you could see that Bank of America, Chase, they have they have interest rates up in the 28%, 30% ranges. So this is, I showed you the law. Now I want you to do the research. So Google a credit union, look at their credit cards, and let me know if you see any credit cards with an interest rate that is higher than 18%, because you're not going to find it. So when I'm looking for a credit card, I start with credit unions or loans, because I know that the rate is going to be more than likely be lower, since they cannot legally charge me more than 18%, because most banks, their lowest interest rate is already more than that 18%. And be careful with this one, no interest promotions. So these are not the same. Not all interest promotions are not created equally. If you ever see anything that says no interest if paid in full by, that is deferred interest. And this happened to me. So if you owe 1 cent, so if it says no interest if paid in full by 12 months, and that 12 months comes up and you owe 1 cent, all the interest for that 12 months is going to be loaded back on that card. So with my Bob's discount card, I had a balance after the 12 months. The next thing I know, my balance went up by $800 due to all that interest. If it says 0% APR, that's cool, because it's a no interest free period. So if it's 0% APR for 12 months, all that means is on month 13, you're going to start paying interest. But for everything before that, there was no interest charged. So be careful there. And the last hidden gem, how to handle a collection, for 4 things you could do. Always request verification of debt, because once again, it has to be 100% accurate. If there are anything on that verification of debt that is not true, they don't have your signature, if you never signed for it, if the balance owed is wrong, anything like that, please request that verification of debt. Once they send it to you, if there are any errors, send that dispute to all 3 credit bureaus. If there's nothing wrong with it, you could do 2 things. You can negotiate a pay for delete agreement. And this is what I did. Personally, I had a collections. And a lot of collection agencies already do this. If you pay what you owe, they'll remove it from your credit report. They don't have to. But whenever I negotiate a collections, I always try to negotiate a pay for delete. And if they don't agree for that, you could always ask for a goodwill deletion. Just write them a letter. Let them know that you went on hard times. You're trying to better your financial situation. In good faith, can they remove this collections from your credit report? Of course, you would have to pay it off in full, or you don't have to pay it off in full. You could always negotiate for a lower amount. That's another thing with collections. You can negotiate for a lower amount and ask for that goodwill deletion. And the last section for my daily pay users, thank you all for staying on board. I just want to show you how daily pay can help, because the daily pay benefit is a great benefit, and we could definitely help you in a few ways. Because as you know, with daily pay, you can make an instant or next day transfer to get funds right away from your pay. You don't have to wait for payday to get those funds while using daily pay. So if you want to avoid a missed payment and payday is too far out, just make that instant or next day transfer, because the last thing we want is for you to miss a payment. It goes past 30 days late, and now it's on your credit report, dropping your credit scores. So use that daily pay app, take advantage of it, use that instant or next day payment, and the next day option comes at no cost. So this is a great way to avoid missing those payments. And we also have autosave, which is a way you could help yourself better budget and save. So what I like to do, every time I get paid, I put $50 away, and that account that it goes to is for my bills, and all the auto payments is set up on that account. So use autosave, use it. It's going to automatically send your pay to the account that you need, and it's going to make sure that everything gets paid out of that account. and it's completely free to use autosave with Daily Pay. And a lot of people don't know this about Daily Pay. Well, we offer financial wellness in two ways. We have the financial wellness newsletter, which you can find on our website. And we, as an active Daily Pay user, you also could sign up for free financial coaching. You get one free financial coaching session. You could ask them anything you want about your finances. You could ask them questions about credit, on how to, get out of debt, how to better budget and save. And you get one free session using Daily Pay to sign up under that rewards tab and take advantage. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. Get that session, then you could talk to them how you could set up future sessions. And for all of my Daily Pay users, if you ever have any questions or feedback or anything goes wrong with the Daily Pay app, don't forget you have user support available to you 24/7 at this information listed below. And we made it. We made it to the end. Thank you all who stayed. Thank you so much. So what's going to happen is at the end of this, you're going to get a survey sent to you via Zoom. So please take that survey. Let me know how I did today. And if you want to see future sessions, please let me know. Honest feedback only. So if you didn't like it, that's all right. If you found this useful and you learned a lot about credit, let me know. Take that survey for me. And for anybody who has Daily Pay available at their company but hasn't enrolled yet, scan this QR code. Scan this QR code, enroll into Daily Pay, and follow us on social media. Take advantage of those transfers. Take advantage of financial wellness, and let's help our better financial future. So thank you all so much. I'm going to start answering some questions for anybody that's left behind. I see 10 people are still here. Oh, thank you. Thank you. We have 10 people left. Super job. Great presentation. Thank you so much. So what I could do, since we are over time, I'm going to answer all of these questions via email. But if for the 10 of you, if you have more time, I'll stay on for another 10 minutes. And I'm actually gonna take you off mute if you want to talk. Let me take everybody off mute. If you have anything to say, any questions, we are over time, but since you stayed over, I'll stay over as well. I'll stay on for another 10 minutes answering any questions that you may have. You may see that everybody is coming off mute right now.
Hi,
Well,
can you hear me?
hey, I can hear you. How you doing? Is that Dawn? How
Good.
you
It
doing,
is
Dawn?
Dawn. So, when you were looking at ways to establish credit, I saw something recently saying that there are other ways for a young person to establish credit by paying certain bills or something, or was that some sort of thing from Credit Karma or one of those?
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. So a lot of companies now are like, I know Experian does this. If you Google Experian Boost, you can now add your bills to Experian and they'll start getting reported for positive payment history. So that is a new thing. That is true, but not everybody does it. So not all three credit bureaus do that. Experian is the main one that does it. So it's great because most people check Experian when they're lending you money. So it is a way they could start it. And there are some companies that also do it. You would have to Google it, but some companies will report, like you upload all of your bills to them, and they will report to the credit bureaus as like a line of credit or a loan to get you good payment history. But that is a newer thing, and it is a great way for people that doesn't have any other option. But I hope that was helpful. Was that helpful? That answer?
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, because I have a 17-year-old, so he'll be off to college soon. So just wanted to figure out the best way to get him started with a nice, healthy credit
Yeah,
rating.
and the great thing about college students is almost every financial institution they offer like a college credit card, and to get
Oh,
approved for
okay.
that credit card is much easier because one, the banks know that they're a college student. They're not going to have much income. They're not going to have a previous credit history. So the likelihood of them being approved is very likely unless they have
Oh, okay.
negative information. But if they're just starting out, they're
Yeah.
more than likely going to get approved. And I know Discover does it. Discover is like the most popular one for college students because they approve college students to verify that you're in college. And they start you off with a small limit. It may be 500, it may be 1,000. It's never going to be a very high limit,
Mm-hmm.
but that is a way to get started. And like I said, the secured card, anybody could do that. That's how I started in college. I
Yeah.
went to a bank. I put down 250. I got a credit card with a available balance of 250. And I used it for gas, for McDonald's, small things like that. and I just made sure to pay it off in full every time I got the bill, and my credit started growing. Within 6 months, you're gonna see you have a good credit score.
Got
And
it.
also for yourself, because you said you have great credit, add them as an authorized user. A lot of
Yeah, I
people
thought
don't
of that
understand.
too.
Yes, it because look, this is what happens when you add them as an authorized user. So let's say your oldest card is 20 years old. Once you add your 18-year-old to that card, and they don't have to be 18. Some banks have no age limit, some have 13, 16. You would have to check with each institution. But once you add them as an authorized user, this is what's going to happen. When it gets reported to their credit report, they now automatically, all of a sudden, they have a credit card with 20-year credit history, a good payment history, and now their score is going to jump a lot of points. Like when I did it, my score jumped like 60 to 70 points. But on
Okay.
the same end, if something negative happens with your card, since you're the primary user, it will have a negative impact on them. So it works both ways. If your credit is good, I recommend it. If it's not, if you have late payments on that card, I wouldn't do it. But if you have a clean, no late payments, and that card has a $5,000 credit limit and it's been open for 10 years, I would do it. And I wouldn't give them the card, because if you give them the card, they could use it and you're responsible to pay it back.
Exactly.
You don't
Yeah.
have to give them the card. People don't realize that. Don't give them the card.
Nope.
Just say this is for to help your credit. So when the time comes, you could apply on your own and get your own credit card.
And then do you have to keep them on as an authorized signer
You
forever
do
then?
not. You
Or
do
is that
not.
going to affect their credit when you take them off?
So yeah. So if you take them off, it will impact the credit because they're losing all of that credit history. But it's not gonna be negative as in like a negative mark. What's
Mm,
really gonna happen is gonna show that they have less credit available now
got it.
because
Okay.
it's gonna be removed.
All right. That sounds good. You were really good. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. I'm
Good
glad you
afternoon.
had a great time. And I see some
Good
questions in the
afternoon,
chat.
sir.
I'll make sure to answer them and send an email to follow up.
Good afternoon.
Hi, who's that? That
Hello.
Yannick? Did I say that
Yenny.
correctly?
Yes.
Hi,
I
Yannick.
have
How
a
can I help?
how can I have the question. How can I scan the scan here? How can I do so?
Oh, the
To
QR
scan it
code.
and yes, because
So,
I'm on my phone.
oh, you're on your phone. Okay, so if
Yes.
you're on your yeah, of course, you're on your phone. You can't scan it. You want to enroll in Daily Pay?
I want to do so. I know one of the company that I am. That's the reason I know about that.
Okay, so this is what you do. Download the Daily Pay app. Are you using an
Oh,
iPhone?
yes.
So on the App Store,
Mm-hmm.
search Daily Pay. They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna pop up in orange. It's gonna say Daily Pay. And once you
Mm-hmm.
download the app, all you have to
Mm-hmm.
do is put in make your profile by
Mm-hmm.
putting in your email that you use at your job, whichever you have
Mm-hmm.
in your payroll system, create a password.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's gonna look for your employer, then you could get started.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I did that already. How can I do so? How to transfer money from the like you said to saving? How can I do? I just have to have a credit card um number and then to just do a saving, daily pay saving.
So with the auto save, you have to set up, it has to go to a bank account. So let's say you want to save $50 every single time you get paid. It's gonna take
Uh-huh.
you're gonna have an available balance. Every time you work, you get that balance made available to you in the app. So once you see that
Oh,
available balance grow, you could say, okay, I want to take $50 from this available balance and I want to send it to a bank account. And that's how you save. So it can't go directly to the credit card. You would have to send it to a bank account, then go on your credit card's website and set up the automatic payment from that bank account. Did that make
mm-hmm.
sense? And I
Yes,
can
kind
help
of
you a little more. If you want to
completely.
shoot me an email, you see this email
Yes,
down on the screen? Send me an
yes,
email and we could talk more
yes,
offline.
yes, I screen it. Okay. My next question is I have a credit score. I've been working on it, but it was going bad. But I'm trying to repair it, like you say, make sure I do my monthly. But I have a lot of things in my credit score. Like you say, do not take any company because sometimes they didn't do good jobs. How
Yeah,
can I
absolutely.
do so to because I have a lot of things in my credit score right now. It's no longer like a mortgage issue that I have. I repaired this almost 10 years ago. I have a lot of things on my credit score, score that, I have a problem. I want to take them off,
Got it.
but I was going to somebody to do it for me, but you give me a second option. I'm kind of I don't want the same thing is there and it is not out.
Yeah, you have to be careful with those credit repair companies because they may charge you a large fee up front and then charge you a monthly fee. Then you may not see
Mhm,
anything happen. You're like, what's going on? My credit's not improving and nothing, everything is still there. What I would
mhm,
recommend, since you're a daily pay user, I would
mhm,
sign up for the financial wellness because you're going to talk to a certified financial planner that could help you with
mhm,
your specific situation. So once you
mhm,
go into the Daily Pay app, under the rewards section, you could
mhm,
find the free financial counselor. Click into that. And once you sign
mhm.
up, somebody's going to call you and you could talk through any financial difficulties you're having. And they're going to set you up with a plan and then they could set up future sessions. So that's a great tool because they're certified financial planners. They're not credit repair companies, they're certified people who's teaching people the right way to repair the credit.
Mhm. Okay. But it will help me to take some old stuff that I don't need. I mean, already fixed already on the score, on the credit score, right?
Yeah, so some things, even if you pay it off, so let's say you have a collections or if
Mm-hmm.
you had a debt, even when you pay it off, it will still stay in your credit report for 7 years, but it will show that it's been paid. But the great thing about it with the FICO score, remember early in the training, they're only looking 2 years
Mm-hmm.
back. So once you
Mm-hmm.
get past the 2 years of it being paid off in full, it's not going to hurt you
Mm-hmm.
as much. And the newer FICO scores, they don't, if you have a paid collections, they don't even look at it with your credit score. If it says paid, it does not affect your credit score with the newer ones. But of course, each bank uses different, credit models. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say, make sure you get them all paid in good status. And once those two
Mm-hmm.
years from the delinquency happens, you're gonna see your credit score start going up. Because even though it stays in
Okay.
your credit report, over time it hurts less. So as the
Okay.
years go by, it starts hurting less and less and less. So to remove
Okay.
something completely off that's accurate, that's hard to do. What people do, they start disputing everything, trying to see if they because if they don't answer the dispute within 30 days, it has to come off. But most of the credit bureaus are good at this. They're gonna respond within those 30 days. That's what pretty much credit repair companies are doing. They're sending out a bunch of disputes to try to get somebody to slip up. So, and that doesn't always work. But I would definitely recommend reaching out to the financial counselor session on the Daily Pay app
Mm-hmm.
because they could give you,
Mm-hmm.
they could look at your situation specifically, walk you through the credit report and give you exact things that you could do. Unfortunately, I can't do that for you. I can't, look at
Mm-hmm.
your credit report, but I could
Mm-hmm.
direct you in a place where you could go.
Okay. I'm
Would
going
that
to
help
share.
you?
Yes, very much. So thank you very much, sir. I'm going
I have
to
a
send my
question.
email to this one
If
that
that's
about the daily pay, how you can help me to get it to transfer some funds.
Yeah, yeah. Shoot me an email and we
Okay.
could discuss
Okay.
via email. We could connect and I'll help you through that. Definitely.
Okay.
okay.
Thank you very much, sir. It was a great session. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad you had a great time. Thanks for having me and thanks for staying.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. How you doing, Tom?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Great. Thanks for
Um,
asking.
so this is gonna sound crazy, but if I've never had a credit card. I bought my car with straight up without a loan or anything. I've never owed money. Is that bad for credit? It sounds like it is.
So it's not bad. I'm not going to say it's bad. So, the credit mix, when to have the best credit, you have to have a mix of credit. So, they want to see that you have, an auto loan, you have a credit card, you have different types of lending because they want to see that you could pay back different types of loans. But it's not bad. I don't want to say it's bad. I don't want you to think, oh, let me just get this credit card just because I want to improve my credit. If you need a credit card and the credit card is going to be beneficial to you, you will see it positively impact your credit because you have more of a credit mix. But I don't want to say it's bad. As long as you don't have anything negative like late payments, collection, or anything like that, it's not bad. It's just that if you want to have your credit score to grow even more, you need to have more of a mix of that credit.
Okay. Yeah, because I've never looked at I have no idea what my credit score is. I heard about how to do it today from you. So I guess I'll find out and see how it is. But I've got nothing bad on the history. I've never used a credit card. I don't owe anything.
Okay, yeah, and like I said, it's not a bad thing. That you don't have any debt, so that's it's gonna show. It's gonna be a good thing. I would recommend getting a credit card just to start building more payment history because the more positive payment history you have, the more your credit goes up. So if you have a credit card and you're making positive payments to it, it will go up. But I don't want you just to say, oh, let me get a bunch of credit cards because, the more you apply for credit, your credit goes down because of those hard inquiries. But start off with one credit card. Just start with one. Use that credit card, pay it back, and you're gonna see your credit grow.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So question, did you like miss any payments, anything on the car loan?
I didn't get a car loan. I bought it straight. I just
Oh,
paid the
you bought
full
it straight.
money.
So okay, so I misheard that. So since you bought
Yeah.
it straight cash, you're more than likely you don't have a credit history yet. Yeah, so you're
Cool.
not gonna have a credit history until you have 6 months of some type of credit with the FICO score.
So like paying rent doesn't count?
No, so paying rent doesn't count. That doesn't get reported to your credit. It could hurt your credit if you don't pay the rent and it goes to collection or an eviction, but paying it on time, it has no impact on your credit. That's another thing people don't realize. They think, oh, I pay rent, I have a cell phone bill, I pay water bill. That has no impact. So you more than likely have no credit history, which is one, it's not a bad thing. You just have to start your credit profile, and you're not going to see a credit score for 6 months of having one line of credit.
Okay. Wow. All right.
Yeah, but it's a
Uh,
good thing. It's you're starting fresh. We all got to start fresh. So, like I said, so to start off, try getting a secured card. I would start with a secured credit card.
okay. I'm 39, so it's not like I'm starting fresh, but I guess I have to.
Well, if you never had credit, it's starting for. It doesn't matter what age. Credit has no age.
Yeah,
But
I guess.
back in the day, a lot of people said credit was bad. Cash is king. Cash is king. My dad told me cash is king. And it's king because you don't have any debt. But when you need to buy a house or get a car, they're like, oh, we don't know if you're responsible. You never had credit. How are we gonna know? We can't
Yeah,
approve you because we just don't know.
that's where I am. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like kind of starting house stuff, and it's like, oh boy, I have no idea how credit works.
Yeah. So just shoot me an email. Shoot me an email and I could give you some more information on the house buying process. I could send you some links that's gonna lead you down the right way. So you see the
Oh,
email
thank
on
you.
the screen? Just shoot an email
Yeah,
and we could
yeah,
connect offline.
thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions for anybody who's still on? I see there's still some people on. If you don't have any questions, feel free to drop. Thank you all so much for joining. I had a great time. I hope you learned something about credit and it was worth your time. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you once again.